Hi everyone, today I'm going to speak a bit about applying for the doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm going to do a bit of a tour through the website that you use to apply so you know what the application form looks like and also where to find out information about the different courses. In the future, I will make more videos about writing the personal statement and prepping for the interview, which can be really tricky. But today I'm just going to focus on looking through the website and things you might think about before applying to the course. So this is what the clinical psychology application website looks like, and this would be the home page. So if you scroll down, you can see the application stats showing how many applicants, places and success rates the courses have. And if you click see more numbers, you can see the trend over the last few years. If you do have a look at this, sometimes it can be a bit daunting, and I know for myself, when I looked at this, I just thought the competition is too much and it kind of put me off a bit. But if you do have the minimum entry requirements and you do have the experience and you feel like you are interested in applying, there's no harm in giving it a go. And I would say don't let the competition get to you, because all you need is one interview minimum to kind of have that chance of getting in. And for some people it does take a couple rounds of applications, but if you are curious about looking at the numbers, you can have a look at that part of the website as well. And then there's some other links over here to find out if you're eligible, what you need to apply, and what happens after you apply. So you could spend some time looking through that to kind of prepare for your application. The website hasn't updated yet, but you can expect the closing date for the new applications to be sometime around November, and I think they will open sometime in September. So if you click courses, it would show the list of all the courses in the UK that provide the doctorate in clinical psychology course. And then if you click on one of them, it will go into much more detail about the course, and there's a bit of an overview in terms of the different things that the course requires. So to find in-depth information about it, you go to the entry requirements part and just see what they kind of outline. Each course varies slightly in terms of what they require. But as you can see, for Leeds, they're asking for a minimum of 12 months experience in 2 or more distinct fields. But not all of the unis require this. Some unis actually require more experience, whereas some unis don't really specify the amount of months or years that you're working for. So have a look through them. And then there's also like a part for international students as well, to find out if you'll be eligible for the course. And then when you click selection procedure, it goes into what the procedure looks like after you've sent in the application. So for this one, you can see that there's 2 separate interviews, but for other unis there might only be 1 interview. Some other unis might do selection tests as well. So depending on what kind of process you prefer, I think it will be really helpful to have a read through all of these to see what matches with what you feel comfortable doing. And then if you go to about the program, this part was really helpful for me when I applied to figure out what unis align with the values that I hold. And like, for example, you can see with Leeds, they value collaboration, compassion, inclusivity and integrity. So I think it's good to apply to unis where you align with those values, because it makes the whole process of application easier. And even with the interview, they like to see that you're matching the values of their uni as well. So that's a bit of an overview in terms of reading about the courses. What I did was actually go through every single one of the courses to make sure that I'm picking the ones that I align with, and you only have 4 choices. So I would say spend some time reading through them, because obviously it is 3 years of your life, so you do want to pick unis that you really align with and that you feel like matches your experience that you have. And then over here is where you actually make the application. For you guys, it might say sign in, but because I already have an account, and if you've applied again, you would have an account already. So this will obviously look much different when you're applying, and it would be probably 20th of November 2025 or sometime around then. And you can see the unis that you apply for, and then when you click your details, this is usually just your name, address, phone number, just those basic kind of information. And then funding, depending on what route you're taking, there are some self-funded routes, but they're very, very minimal. And usually you do need to have the right to work in the UK, and that's just kind of confirming all of that. And then over here is when you select the 4 unis that you want to apply for. And when you are doing a draft application, you can just select 4 and then change it later. So don't worry if you change your mind. As long as you haven't submitted it, you can change. You might speak and thinking about the disability scheme. So if you do identify as having a disability, for some unis, they do something called a guaranteed interview, where as long as you meet the minimum entry requirements, you can get an interview. But also, they don't offer it to everyone because of the competition. Usually they do probably screen the highest scoring candidates for that as well. But if you do want to find out specifics about the scheme, you can also get in touch directly with the unis that offer it. And then the suitability statement section. So normally what they require is 1 academic basically reference and 1 relevant experience reference. So for the academic one, it could be your course tutor, or it could be your research dissertation supervisor, or alternatively, if you've been doing a research role and you've maybe worked towards publishing something or worked on research, that could be your supervisor there. And then the relevant experience one is usually your current line manager in your job, but for sometimes, especially for me, because I was switching roles, your current manager might not be suitable or might not know enough about you, so you could use your previous employer. You just have to explain it, and usually there's a section to explain that. And then for the qualifications, it's just basic stuff like your school qualifications and your uni qualifications. And then you go into your experience. So there's 2 sections. One is relevant experience, where you put the roles that you've worked in, and then usually there's a couple of characters allowed to type in like what kind of things you did in your role in each of the ones that you submit. So this is more like relevant experience, so linked to psychology and mental health. And then there's other experience, so jobs that aren't related to clinical psychology, or times that you were unemployed and things like that. So if you do have other experiences, you can definitely put that in there. And then they have the publication section, which is where you kind of put any of your work that's been disseminated or published, and that could be even service related research or audits, or if you've, like I said, published any of your research, and you can note that down. It is optional because they don't require you to have a publication or disseminate your work, but it's usually preferred. I didn't have any publications. I only had service related audit experience, so that's also appropriate. But I think it's important to explain how you disseminated it. So for example, if you supported in staff training, or you presented it in a business meeting, whatever it is, just giving an example that you've actually disseminated the findings of whatever you kind of did. And then there's a chance to kind of put some background information. So for example, if you have a disability and you want to give further details, or you want to give further details about the impact of socioeconomic disadvantage, and things like that, there's things that you can type in here, but obviously this is optional as well because it might not apply to everyone. But it is helpful, I guess, if you feel comfortable to kind of explain a bit about your journey into applying for this course. And then the big section, the course questions. So I know this has recently changed, and they say that each course can ask their own questions. I did apply 2 times, and to be fair, the question remained pretty much very similar to each time I applied. So I don't know exactly how it's going to look like in 2025, but this is the part where you reflect on your experiences. So you can definitely expect some kind of reflection question. And this part can be really difficult to write because we are used to kind of just explaining the experience that we have and why we're ready for the training, but they really want to see what you've learned from your experience rather than what you know. And like I said, I will make a future video to kind of share my general tips about this part of the application. So that's something to note as well. And then the contextual admission. So they do ask you questions regarding your educational, social, and economic background, and that's because some courses do take into context this kind of information to help them, I guess, improve accessibility to the courses. So that's also something to know. And also, when you're reading through the course description that we just went through, you can have a look at unis that take this into account, because not all of the unis do this. And then there's the document section, and this can be much more stressful than it should really be. So I think that's why it's kind of important to look through the website to figure out what you need before you apply. So usually they ask for a transcript, your degree certificate, and just confirmation that your degree is BPS accredited. So usually for that, you just kind of email your uni admin to just write you a letter to confirm that the course was BPS accredited, and then you kind of upload it all on here. And yeah, that's that part. I would say with these kind of things, just make sure you have it as soon as you can, just to make your life easier. So that was a brief overview of the Leeds Clearinghouse website. So if you are thinking about applying to the doctorate, I would say have a browse of the website and get more information about the courses that you would like to apply for. And even if you're not 100% sure, I think it's still a good place to just have a look and a browse. When I did apply the first time, I didn't really have the 12 months of clinical experience yet, but I did find some unis that didn't specify that you needed the full 12 months. Of course, ideally it is good to have more experience, but if you just want to kind of do a practice run, and see how the process feels like, sometimes it can be helpful to just go through the application process. But each person is different, and for some people they really want to have all their experience ready and all the knowledge ready before applying, which is completely fair enough. But then there are some people like me who just kind of want to go for it and give it a go and see what happens, and kind of get experience from the application itself. So if you're more on that side of things and you're not 100% sure, I would say just give it a go, and browse the website to get some ideas. So I will, like I said, create some more videos regarding the personal statement itself and my advice on that, and also the interview process and how I prep for it. But of course, like, everyone's different. This is just my own personal experience. But yeah, if you do subscribe, you can watch the next few videos that I will post about the doctorate and applying for it. Thank you for watching.